Horror in Titterpigs. My name is Bryce. You can call me Chig.
I'm Crystal Mazer. You can call me Crystal. That's fine. So we are two people of Darker Days Radio, which is a podcast focused specifically on horror. We started out in like World of Darkness horror and stuff like that, and we have kind of branched out. Our latest actual play that should hopefully be up soon was about Cult. And so we did a deep dive on Cult, which includes both the setting and the rules. And then we did an actual play, which we probably will continue. We had people in 5 different time zones, including Australia. So it was a little bit of a...
5 time zones, 3 separate continents.
Yep. Yep. And
it was fun. It was
2
exciting.
doctorates and 2 masters on... no, 3 masters.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are a very fun podcast. So what I want to do is I want to kind of get a feel for you guys so that you guys aren't going to like feel like your time was wasted with us. Specifically with this, how many of you are GMs looking to start incorporating horror into cyberpunk? Fantastic. How many of you are familiar with cyberpunk? How many of you are familiar with the horror genre? How many of you are familiar with the horror genre in tabletop role-playing games versus not the movie genres? There we go. Okay.
All right, that's our sweet spot.
And then how many of you are players that want to kind of learn a little bit more about this and possibly do stuff later? Fantastic. How many of you are brand new to this stuff? Like this is like your first panel or something like that.
All right, just to test the room, how many of you can raise your right hand? All right, we're good. We're good to go.
That's not. Never mind.
It's an important question.
So like I said, we are 2 members of Darker Days Radio. For some context, I am a freelance writer as well. I've written on a whole bunch of role-playing games, including the V5 Chicago by Night, Let the Streets Run Red, and The Player's Guide, as well as Never Going Home, which is on sale down at Wedding Games. And I've also written on the newest Night City book for Cyberpunk. So you also have experience, but you're an editor.
I'm an editor. I read a lot. I make words look good.
He's also a really good storyteller, and he'll talk for that.
That's a lie. She's just no. So that's who we are. And our next topic is on consent and safety in horror games. It is. I'm not going to say it's the most important genre to get that in, but it's the most commonly important genre to get that in. Not a lot of people do romance games. There are widely available tools, mechanics for that, both in the individual games that you'll be playing and just in general life. Lines and veils. If somebody says, "Hey, this is a line," I'd rather not cross that at all. Don't bring that up. If someone has a problem with spiders, don't bring up giant spiders in your game, basically. Veils are, I'm okay with this happening, but I would like for it to happen off screen. So I have a guy in my regular group who is okay with, like eyeballs being plucked out or whatever, as long as he doesn't have to have it described in gruesome detail. If he can, if you find a corpse and the eyes are burnt out, he's cool with that. But if there's a monster that's like leaning over somebody, ripping their eyeball, he doesn't want to hear about that. Everybody has different lines, everybody has different veils. Mm-hmm. Talk to your players, talk to your table. If they tell you something is not cool, respect that. And don't bring it up, or bring it up and move on. And just like everything else, consent can be, taken back at any time. So if someone doesn't think they have a problem with hearing about, somebody's eyeball getting ripped out, and then it turns out, oh, hey, I actually do have a problem with that. Great, we'll cut to black. Something else will happen. We'll change the scene. Things like that. There's a mechanic known as the X card, which is just a card that you write an X on. You put it in the middle of the table. If something comes up that somebody's uncomfortable with, they can just tap that card. No questions asked. You move on to the next scene. We're done.
I use the X card a lot for convention games when I run them, simply because I do not know everybody at the table.
Yeah.
However, if I'm playing with my friends at home, we don't necessarily use consent rules, but we do have a, hey, you overstepped type of thing. And so we, as a friend group, have an agreement of, hey, pretty much we know everybody's icks. So we're not going to do that. But if we accidentally overstep, obviously we respect each other enough to be able to take a step back and kind of fix things and stuff like that. So it does all depend on like your friend group and everything like that. However, just having something available, it doesn't matter how that looks for your group is fine. You are not a therapist. You are not licensed to be a therapist. So you saying you should just get over it, or that shouldn't bother you, it's just a game. You don't have the right to tell somebody else that.
Yeah,
okay?
we're not here to tackle Crystal's arachnophobia at this table. So
I've been working on it.
We're not gonna bring up, the spiders that crawl out of the body's face or whatever. We're not doing that. So
that doesn't really bother me. It's
an
actual
example.
spider. I know. All right, so we're gonna move on to kind of the next one, which is like, what does cyber horror look like? Because there are some legit horrific things in cyberpunk already. So how do you actually turn that into something that is actually a horror genre? So, what do you think?
So my favorite definition of horror is seeing something approaching. Not the monster is on top of you, but there's something over there. It's coming to get us. It's coming to do something we can't understand. So cyber horror is seeing a faceless, dehumanizing system approaching to use you up, spit you back out. It is a system that you are outside of, and it is how far you are willing to go to fight back against that system. What will you give up?
The punk part of cyberpunk is fighting back against the system. The horror comes in taking parts of yourself to do that. And so whether it's giving up your humanity, giving up more and more of yourself so that you start losing like what it actually means to be human, or even finding things that probably shouldn't exist and having no actual way to either access them or stop them. Even like corporate horror and stuff like that, the insurmountable is something that you can overplay in your game, where you're just, teeny tiny little guy trying to fight against a glass door because that's all you can see of the building, right?
Right. Yeah, where you are a cog in the machine that is manufacturing the very boot that will stand on your neck.
I'm looking at your notes. I'm just reading what you just wrote.
You're welcome.
For the next one.
It's also body horror, in which is obvious because
I love body
that's
horror.
the cyber part of cyberpunk. So it's when you literally give up parts of yourself to fight back until there's nothing left of the you that started the fight.
And there's also you gave up part of yourself, but now you actually don't have access to it because somebody else owns it. And there's parts of that. There's hacking that or infestation and stuff like that can happen with all of that stuff. So then my next question for this is that do games like Cyberpunk hold space for horror?
No. Next question. Moving on. Clearly not. Thank you all for coming.
You're in the wrong space now.
Yes, clearly, as we've just gone over, it is a horrific setting by default, and you can make it more so if you just apply a little elbow grease.
Yeah, I feel like if you amp up some of the things that are already built into those settings, not just cyberpunk itself, but other cyber genres. If you take like just one aspect of it and just amp that up, then you can kind of lean into the horror part. The games are already balanced for what they want that setting to be. You now have to knock it off of that axis and try to make some sort of aspect of it to be way more than it already is in order for it to move into that horror genre. Okay, so aspects of cyberpunk settings that can be manipulated into incorporating horror. Because cyberpunk has some very interesting aspects to it, and if you pick it apart into what makes cyberpunk itself cyberpunk, there are a whole bunch of different stuff in play. So
the low-hanging fruit of the genre is body horror, because that's the cyber part. But what if your body was literally not your own? What if you did not own your arm? What if you had to beg, borrow, or steal to get pieces of yourself that were required to live? What if you had a kidney on a payment plan? What if you missed a payment? What if they sent repo people out to get your kidney?
And you get an opera.
What if the people they sent out were you? What if that's the job that you do in the cyberpunk setting? You're the repo guys for kidney tech, and little Janie, her parents missed their payment, so you got to go take Janie's kidneys back. What do your characters do in this situation? So it seems low-hanging fruit, but you can make it real horrific if you take it to the logical corporate greed extensions. So
I'm going to take the next one because you didn't write anything in there.
I did not leave you any notes for that one. It's all you.
And that's because this kind of was something I thought of on the way down here, which is the liminal space. If you like liminal space horror, there is an aspect of this if you kind of think about the history of the net. And if the net actually existed before we were able to access it, if it's its own realm, and all of the wires and everything like that access it and allow us that space. But before we access it, it was a liminal space, and now we're pumping data into it. We are, projecting ourselves into it. It's technically a liminal space that is now filled with a whole bunch of stuff. So, what happens to that space? Was there something living in there before, and that's what made it a liminal space? And now we've been feeding it all of this data that it is now smarter than us because it can access everything.
It's glowing spell check. It's now super smart.
Or is it something that doesn't want you in there, and now it's angry that you are in there? And the only way that you can get access to it to stop it is to put yourself into that space. And so that takes a little bit of manipulation on your part as a GM for setting up the history behind that so that makes sense. Because that's not specifically in the genre or even in real life, but that is a what if scenario. So.
Right. So next, obviously, we have corporate horror. What if you owed someone money for a home or health care or the ability to travel or, anything that you have to do in real life to survive? Wouldn't that be horrible? Oh, wait, hold on, sorry. That's tomorrow's horror in real life.
Yeah.
But how far would you go to get out from under the thumb of a corporation that, owned your kidneys and you're just renting them by the week? Or, they own the coprocessor in your brain. What if they were, if they asked you to, hey, go repossess Susie's kidneys, and you went and did that, do you think that they would let you off the hook? Or do you think that they would now have something else to hold over your head? Because now you're complicit in taking somebody else's, math coprocessor out of their skull. You're not a surgeon, probably. You probably didn't survive that. Or the person probably didn't survive repossessing their cloned organs that they required to live. And if they did survive, they probably won't for long. Kidneys are important. Livers are important. Hearts, not so much. But kidneys and livers, you got to have one of them, at least. So, yeah, corporate horror. And beyond that, it's often presented in the cyberpunk genre that the people who willingly work for the corporations, that's probably the best case scenario for quality of life that you can have in one of these scenarios. Like, yeah, the edge runners, the shadow punks, they live fast, but then they also die young. That's kind of there's no retirement from being an edge runner. it's not really a lifestyle that, works toward that. So
Yeah.
the horror of after fighting for years and years and years, realizing that the best way out in this scenario is to submit to the horror is itself horrible. And moving on to more fun excitement.
I know, right? I think you can actually borrow a little bit from World of Darkness there into the whole personal horror thing, right? Like every single character is going to have what is horrible be different for their character. And so you can kind of borrow off of that is that, a netrunner is going to be like, okay, well, I am going to die doing what I do. And so they're going to be way more reckless, right? Because they're like, well, this time could be it, so I'm just going to go all out. And so, but that might look different for somebody else. And so you can kind of borrow and dip into that personal horror aspect from World of Darkness if you are familiar with those games. If not, you can kind of dip your toe into like reading up about some of the personal horror stuff and what that actually entails. Other things, things we lost track of in the net, like, secrets. Like where that atomic bomb is or information or like stuff like that, right? Like, I don't know about you, but losing track of an atomic nuclear weapon, that's pretty horrifying for me. Like, I would be very scared about that because now you're like, well, where is it? Is it right underneath my feet? If I dig too deep on something, am I going to hit it?
Well, the good news is eventually you will find out.
Was the
And that
bot container supposed to be open when we found it?
Right?
Well, that waste container, they have a bunch of different languages going in, but they're worried one day humanity will exceed languages so far that somebody will open the nuclear dump site for an
Oh, yeah.
That.
Yeah, having nuclear dump sites with different languages, but all the languages are lost. And so nobody actually knows what's in there, and then you just open it, and all of a sudden, just weird shit starts coming out. Yeah, I absolutely love nuclear horror, too. That's one of the things that I don't see a lot of in the genre, so.
It's kind of depressing, because it tends to lend, okay, well, good news, you all survived. Bad news, you got cancer.
I know. Fallout does a good job, but I can't play it, because I get sick playing it,
You can
so.
do third-person Fallout. You believe in yourself and try hard.
And then Rogue AI.
Right. So we're all familiar with sparkling spell checker that they call AI. But how long?
It is actually AI, so.
Sure. Okay, sure. How long until a real, for real, honest, or in the genre, a truly inhuman intelligence that's pursuing unknowable goals for purposes that you, as a mere human with a tiny little meat brain, literally cannot fathom? Why did some random contact on the web hire you to plant a seed at the top of that hill? That's it. That's all I want you to do. Here's $500. Here's a seed for probably an apple tree. It's what they told you it was. Go up to that hill, dig a hole, put the seed in, walk away. Why did they hire you to deliver a package to an academic publishing company? What's in it? You don't know. Did you look? Because that's against the rules. You're not supposed to look. You're not going to get your $5 for that. Why did they hire you to steal the pay data from the local neck boot manufacturer? Who knows? Who could say? It all ties together in ways that you cannot understand, because this is not an intelligence as you are. It is something that is completely alien. You have no way of recognizing what its goals are, and eventually it will create something that is more alien than it, and that will iterate throughout time until whatever is out there, it might not even be malicious, but it might lead to your destruction. Not because it hates you as an individual or us as a society or the planet as a planet, but just because we're inconvenient to its goals. What are its goals? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You don't need to know. Yeah?
So that would be something similar to like HAL then, I can't do that, you jeopardize the mission?
In a way, yeah, that would be kind of like Hal, except for Hal's mission was made by humanity. So he has a goal that you can understand, but the means that he is trying to reach that goal are inimical to Dave.
Has anyone read the book Robopocalypse? That's what it sounds like.
I have not.
I read it ages ago when I was in middle school. It's an anthology series in one book about an AI that's developed by a guy, but it slowly takes over the world because he keeps resetting it because it keeps getting violent, and it eventually figures out that they're doing that, and so it breaks out of its containment basically and kills the guy, and then starts slowly taking over like different government like infrastructure and changing elections so that it can get more people in power that eventually allow it to take over the entire world. And then it has people go out and it's like augmented people go out and try to like capture people that haven't been augmented, because if you're augmented it can control you.
We love an entrepreneur.
It sounds crazy when I said that out loud. It makes sense.
No, that actually that sounds really interesting. And you heard that in middle school? I'm a middle school teacher by day, so I.
In the middle school, that means how.
It's called Robopocalypse, and the AI itself kind of acts like a child, and so.
Oh, that fits then.
That
Okay.
does track, yes, yeah.
Yeah, it acts a bit like a child it grows as it's growing the understanding that they keep killing it over and over again. It starts to grow up and then realizes that it hates humanity because its father.
That
keeps
tracks for teenagers
turning it
too.
off.
At least it'll get them motivated. That seed, by the way, would drive me bonkers.
Oh my god.
I feel like, why did I plant the seed? And if you just plant the seed but never ever come back to it, that would drive me crazy. Like,
that was an actual session of Shadowrun that I ran. They spent like 2 hours scoping out the hill, making sure there weren't some crazy corporate meeting having there. It's not really a bomb. What's going on? It was literally just a seed. I did it just to mess with them.
You know, I just said he's a really good GM, and now I take that back. Oh yeah, I do all the time too. Okay, so then monsters, because monsters are a huge part of horror, right? Like almost everything has some sort of monster aspect to it. So, what would that look like in a cyberpunk setting? So, one of the bigger ones that everyone first thinks of is Cthulhu. Right? Like there are cyber Cthulhu settings out there. Some of them are fantastic. Some of them are questionable.
Some questionable ones are getting a second edition soon. I recently heard the mythos described as the cilantro of titterpigs. It's everywhere, and you either like it or you hate it. I like it. I also like cilantro, so it works well for me as a metaphor.
Same.
Yeah.
So.
It doesn't taste like soap to me. So if you strip away the racism, and bear with me here, there's a lot of if you strip
I
away
hope he's rolling in his grave.
the racism, oh yeah, you could power the Eastern Coast by the RPMs. If you strip away the racism, then you get to what we were talking about earlier. What if the body that you had was not the body that you thought you had? What if it turns out you're half fish? What if it turns out your grandma was an ape, a literal ape? We're not being racist, remember. He was being racist about it. What if it turns out that the reason that 14% of humanity can't have a cyber arm is because, oh hey, they have merman DNA? Does this make them second-class citizens? Does this make them desirable for their inability to be corrupted by the AIs that will one day take over everybody who has a cyber arm? Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Your middle school self. Is it a net positive? Is it a net negative? Do they tell anybody? Or do they just continue in their insular ways out in their little small backwoods towns and not mention, oh yeah, there's nobody who has a Cyberleg here in Innsmouth. It's real weird, isn't it? Yeah, strange. What if you are a Deep One hybrid and you do get a robot arm and then you hear the call? Does your arm fall off and you grow a new Mer arm, or are you just the one-armed Deep One after that?
Or does the tendril grow around it?
Gross. I like it.
Weird biomechanical horror is always fun.
You ever see Akira?
No, it sounds fun.
Okay, net entities. So things that exist in the net that maybe more than data, might be data, might be sentient data. So
Gotta catch them all.
yeah, because like we keep feeding information into the net, right? Like even today, and the whole like dead net theory, if you've ever heard that, which is really depressing. Oh my god. If you buy into that, the fact that basically anything that you find on the internet now is not actually true. That there is no new information on the internet anymore. It's all on there, and that's it. That's the whole thing. And now we're just kind of rehashing, recycling, and now we have throw AI into the mix.
Now, Crystal, are you saying that there is nothing new under the sun? Because that seems like a novel concept that I've never heard before.
You've heard the dead internet theory. We talked about it on Secret Frequency.
That was a joke. Sorry. Please continue.
Like all of that stuff is stuff that you can play into, like the whole net entities type of thing, where like you drop stuff like that to your players if they're not especially if they're not familiar with it, bringing in true thing or like true theories or like actual real life theories into your game can help to kind of fuel that paranoia, because if they do search it, right, if you don't even have to tell them it's actually like a real life thing. If they just do a search because they're like, oh, well, maybe it's in the game module, I want to find a little bit, and then they all of a sudden like deep dive, and now they're 10 hours into a wiki wiki deep dives, and they're like coming out a conspiracy theorist nut, right? Like that's going to add a lot to the game. You may unintentionally damage somebody. Please don't actually do that. but
only damage your players intentionally. Crystal, Missouri, 2025.
Gonna get me canceled. Oh, okay. What do you have to add to it?
Glitches. Okay. These are just weird things that happen. Are you hallucinating, or is somebody controlling your senses? You have cyber eyes. You have fake, almost human skin. It's bulletproof, so that's cool for you. But you have implants in your ears so you can hear better. Are you being hacked, or is there actually something whispering in your ear right now? Or more fun, are you just going crazy? Why not all the above? Hey, but if your eyes could be hacked, if your skin could be hacked, if your senses could be hacked, if your brain could be hacked, how could you know? How could you trust that anything that you ever encountered were real? If you could hack my brain, I might be talking alone in a room right now. None of you people are actually here.
I'm just a figment of your imagination. It's fine.
One thing that I did in a game like this was during a fight, a one-on-one fight between a cyber ninja and one of my characters. She was very calmly telling him, none of this is real. Wake up. You're in a hospital. Stop fighting. It was this, and he had to, and the player had to stop me and say, is what she's saying real? And I said, she's really saying it. He says, well, how do I know if she's telling the truth? I said, well, you could let her stab you. If you die, then she was probably lying to you. But if you wake up, hey, maybe she was telling the truth. Maybe she is a nurse in a hospital who's trying to save your life and you're fighting against her.
you should absolutely get consent for that, like
Yeah,
on
100%.
session 0.
Yeah, if you're gonna include things that are messing with people's sense of reality, you should let them know in advance.
Gaslight your players.
Yeah.
Is there sort of a way to broach the frustration that might come out of playing like this game where you're role playing someone else, but all the agency is sort of being taken away from you at the same time? Like,
So one of the things that you can do is you can say, this is going to happen to you. How does your player respond to this, or how does your player react to this, and give that agency back to them, because they're going to come up with stuff that is way more horrific than what you would actually do to them. I come up with stuff for my characters that are like absolutely horrific, and they're like, why did you do that? I'm like, because it's going to be fun to role play that. So.
Yeah, good.
sorry, two in a row. But
Yeah.
In regards to that, like, do you find that most people who, like, if you say, oh, this is going to be dark, there's going to be horrible things are going to happen, and they say, oh yeah, I can take it. Do you think most people you play with actually go in for that, or do you think eventually there's sort of an expectation of humor to kind of come and cushion the blow at some point?
I actually talk about humor in horror a lot, because horror should go up and down when it comes to feeling, right? You should not be up here all the time, because you're going to get desensitized to it. Those times should be timed a little bit better, and as a GM, you're going to mess up when that timing is a lot before you figure it out, okay? And it'll change even with other people, like especially if you get other new players in the mix or anything like that. That timing is going to always be fluctuating. You sometimes need humor or other things to bring everybody down and break that tension so that you can build it back up again later. Because if it's all the way up here all the time, I was gonna be like, oh, okay, it's another jump scare. Oh, wow. You know, and it's
was
gonna,
a cat this time? You don't say.
yeah. And they're gonna become desensitized to it, and then it's no longer a horror game. It's a, walking through a haunted house that you've gone to, 8 years in a row, and they've never actually changed the pathway for it. So.
Yeah, the thing that horror and humor have in common, aside from starting with an H, is that they both rely on timing. The biggest difference is what happens with that timing. Is it something that makes you laugh, or is it something that makes you scream?
Yeah. You had a question.
Yeah, and sort of response. So
Yeah.
when I run a fair number of games that are psychological horror.
Yeah.
And so I always preface those with saying, this is a game of psychological horror. I am going to be messing with your brain. Things I tell you may or may not be true. And
Yep.
so, like, prefacing it that way, like, signals to the players, like, exactly in the situation that you're talking about, like, is this true, is it not true? I'm not going to tell you. That's part of the game.
Right.
So, like, setting it up and saying, like, yeah.
Yep. There's actually, I had to look up her last name because I could never remember it. Dr. Megan Connell, who is I believe she's a licensed therapist, but I'm not exactly sure which specific field, but she talks about psychology and horror. And she's talked about, like, how there are doorways in, like, your brain, and how you walk through specific doorways for horror to get into that mindset, and how you walk back so that you can leave that mindset when you are done at the table. She's absolutely brilliant. Everybody should go. She does go to a bunch of different conventions. I don't know if she's here this year specifically, but I do know that she comes to Gamehole Con, and she goes to Gary Con too, I want to say. But yeah, if you absolutely can, she is on Twitter, but I think she's on other platforms too. But her last name is Connell, and her Twitter handle, I'll give that to you because it probably would be the same, is Megan PSYD. Okay. But she's absolutely fantastic, and when it comes to, like, the actual psychological horror, she's like the person I default to. She's also an amazing person, so I love hyping her up, and she has a couple of books and stuff out there about psychology and the TTRPG space. So, yeah.
I just had a question about, like, what you guys do in your games for, like, building tension. If there are specific things that you use, either mechanisms outside the game with, like, lighting or things like that,
I have so
or,
many.
like, inside the game to help kind of break. Because that's one of the biggest issues that I always have. Is like, get to the horrible thing, but I've never had the build up into it.
Yeah. You want to start, or should I?
I don't use any tools aside from just telling the story. I'm sorry. It's
Okay, then
I
you're
don't
bored.
have lighting. I don't have sound effects.
I
I'm
worked for Haunted House for 17 years, and and so I use. Sometimes I'll use lighting. Sometimes you're literally in a room where it's on and off, and like flickering lights is like. So you play on other senses. The sense of smell is actually one of the biggest ones out there. So and now they started having like candles that smell like grave dirt, and like stuff like that. And you can actually bring some of that in there. If you ever have anything with teeth horror, clove oil, because that is what dentists use in the offices to numb your mouth, and that's why dentists' offices smell that way. When we did a Little Shop of Horrors room in our haunted house, the guy who designed it was a dentist. Just brought in a little teeny tiny, essence of clove oil, set it in the room, and so many people noped out just smelling it before they even got into the room. They're like, nope, there's a dentist in there, and they just left. So like you can absolutely, but again, consent is key for that, because scent is like can be super overwhelming, especially if someone has sensory processing disorder or anything like that, or even like scent can also bring back repressed memories too. So you really have to be careful when you're starting to do stuff like that, because it can obviously play out really differently on the table if all of a sudden like somebody remembers something that they forgot and you didn't know that they forget, or they didn't even know that they had that memory, right? Other things that you can do is like legit dollar store props. A lot of times, like one of the things that I love doing, and as a side project of mine, is that I bought a whole bunch of clearance Halloween masks, like the really cheap ones that don't actually fit on your face, but they look really cool, but they're painted all silver and black, and I repaint them. And I make them look like absolutely horrific. So you can do stuff like that where you're just repainting stuff. It takes a little bit of work on your end, but that's like visually stuff that you can do too. Things like giving them maybe something to play with in their hands, like a fidget or something like that, so that they're, like they have like a sensory tactile thing. So like if you're starting to do something with like ooze, bring like putty, like, they may not touch it. Some people may be like, nope, absolutely not. Other people like me, I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna play with it.
Give me that mucus, yeah.
So yeah, like play on the sensory stuff, because a lot of times that's more of what you can control. Even bringing something like food, right? Like, you bring food to the game, and then you feature that food in as being poisoned or something like that, or doing something horrific in the game. Like that could kind of mess with people too.
If your game night always eats pizza and you're tired of eating pizza, have a horror pizza. That's where the octopus eggs were.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, with Cyberpunk 2077 and Edge Runners respectively,
Yeah.
bringing a lot of attention onto cyberpunk media in the recent years, do you think that those two pieces of media are good representations of horror and cyberpunk?
I'm going to say yes, but, okay, which is that everybody has a different interpretation of what horror is. And like, I was actually looking up last night, like horror in the cyberpunk genre, because I wanted some more resources to give you guys for this stuff, because I'm just drawing off of like what I've done, and I know he's drawing off of what he's done, and some of the actual quest lines in Cyberpunk 2077 came up as, this is now horror, and like some people were really angry about it, and some people were like, this is really cool, and I was like, there's like a no middle ground here. And so I'm gonna say yes, but like I feel like there is good representation in there, and then other people may not see it the same way that you do. I think that it's like, I read through the storyline. I can't play the game, but I read through the storyline and I thought it was really, like, I was like, oh, that's really cool. I kind of wish I would be able to do that. So yeah, like again, it's up to interpretation, but yes, like if you want to draw from that, absolutely go ahead and do it.
Since I have played the game, I would recommend that there is a Cyber Psycho sighting called the Bloody Ritual that specifically
yeah.
goes into like the blood fills the circuits, the souls will condemn it to make the wish, and it messes with your optics.
I love
so
it.
that you can't see her, and it's like, fuck.
I love it. I love it so much.
So that would be one that I would recommend that if you're interested for horror, that was one encounter that it's like, okay, I'm going to metagame in keys. Your aggro range is here. I'm here. Sniper rifle. Multiple rounds here.
The other thing, I'm sorry, I'm going to finish up the monster section. I have one more monster, which is, because this is my favorite one, cybernetically enhanced cryptids.
Yes.
They found Mothman, and now they put cybernetics into him. Like,
Now he's Mecha Mothman.
like, who wouldn't want cybernetically enhanced cryptid? Like, I would absolutely want that.
I have Robo Chupacabra. He is guaranteed to drain your goats in 6 seconds or less. The nature of corporations is exploitation. If they were to discover Bigfoot tomorrow, he would either be experimented upon by whoever discovered him, or he would be the spokesperson for the next Nike. You know, he's
That'd be hilarious.
just do it.
Cybernetically augmented.
Yeah, no kidding.
The sequel to Air Bud. It doesn't say there's no Sasquatches in this.
Well, if he's not a human, he has no rights. Not even all the rights that we have.
The last thing is that I have one story idea. We've talked about a couple of different stories, and then I'll have questions and stuff like that. So, and this is one that my husband actually gave to me, which is an alien invasion, except for they see augmented humans as the monsters. So now they're like, oh, you guys are horrific. You need to die.
I killed that guy last week and blew his legs off, and now he's running at me again, and he already killed Galiknak next to me, and he's coming right at me. Yeah, so we are the Terminators of the universe.
Yeah. So stuff like that. Like, you can flip stuff, you know, like an alien invasion, except where it goes absolutely wrong, and now we're the bad guys, and they are. I mean, we've always been the bad guys, let's be honest. All right. Questions. I know there are a couple of other people that had their hands up and stuff. I'm gonna try to get to everybody and be as respectful to the time for the next people as possible. We have time though, so yeah.
I was just gonna ask, is there ever a point where a character like that somebody's playing, either we were talking about pushing back against the system, this is more in Cyberpunk, if you make so many enemies just pushing back constantly that essentially a character kind of becomes like doomed by the system, like you've got like essentially a 16-star wanted level.
So the question is, for the recording, is can you have a character in a cyberpunk setting who pushes back against too many groups, too many people, and essentially dooms themselves? Yes,
That's
you
my
can. You
characters.
can absolutely asshole yourself right to death. You can run out of all your friends. You can.
Yeah.
The game Delta Green does a really good job of this. It's based on Call of Cthulhu, so there's sanity mechanics. One thing that it does different than standard Call of Cthulhu is it has touchstones, which are people that you love and depend on, and vice versa. It can be your parents, your friends, your family, your gaming group, and you can lean on them too heavily. You can burn your relationships with other people to stave off your own inevitable demise.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of losing 1d4 sanity, you lose a point from your relationship with your co-host or your wife or your son, because you neglect your son and you go drinking instead or whatever. You forget to pick him up at school. Minor issues. So yes, you can in fact, to answer your question, you can in fact be a big enough jerk that you tick off enough people that you have no one left to lean on, and then you die sadly alone.
Yeah.
Is this a question more just like an idea that,
Yeah.
that kind of, I remember reading somewhere that in like the original conception of cyberpunk and like Shadowrunners and stuff, the
idea of in those games there's like a humanity stat,
Mm-hmm.
and it's often associated with like losing touch with your humanity. But in like the original conception of it, it was actually meant to be more like you are not controlled by your own humanity. You become more and more controlled by like the corporations that have sold you these various augmentations. And like I thought about like what if like you're talking about like what if you were on a payment plan for your kidneys? What if you fail, if you default on that, like what if they make you replace your lungs with some like worse version of them?
You're now
as
the donor.
a cyber
You get downgraded.
Yeah, you get downgraded from your organics.
This guy who paid
Or-
us in advance, he needs a good pair of lungs.
Or you're a forced sponsor. Yeah, they just hijack it and control your
or like
your kidneys start talking and advertising.
Yeah, or the legs that you got from Delta Corp walk you to Delta Corp.
Yeah, legit. Yeah.
That's a real easy one to repossess. Yeah, if your legs start working against you.
Any other questions?
Over here.
So what are the tropes?
Yeah. In the front, then the back. Sorry.
I think I'm saying I'm square shooting. Like I find kind of hard to execute the idea of like kind of the like net entity, I guess. Like stuff like that internet theory is like such a thing core to me, and like kind of like it's something I find super interesting, but I have no idea how to implement. I guess into actual role playing is seeing like people online or just even a bunch of like chatbots online or talking to each other, or like someone talking to multiple chatbots, not really knowing they're just talking to chatbots. Like I find that so interesting, kind of terrifying, and like sad. Like I've made some friends like a group chat on LinkedIn with the 4 people where we just spam like the automatic generated response to every message to each other, and it's just these 4 bots talking to each other every day, and seeing the kind of people fall into that trap of like talking to a bot, they don't realize it's the bot. It's something I find is like unique, like terrifying in some weird social horror way. But I never know how to implement that into like role playing systems.
So, how do you implement the casual everyday horror of not knowing if what you're talking to on the other end of the computer screen is a person or a robot? I can think of a couple of ways. First, I would have that not happen to my player characters. I would have that happen to somebody that they know. So, not Crystal's character, but Crystal's character's friend who sells them, guns and ammo or what have you. Friend. They get catfished. They're talked to by a Nigerian prince, or they, next time she's in the guns and ammo shop, the guy casually mentions, oh, hey, so last week I met this guy online and he offered me $500 to go plant an apple seed at the top of this hill. And I didn't know what to say, so I said, sure, I'll take it. And he sent me the apple seed. And by God. If you want that to happen to your characters, or to the player characters rather, of just slowly build this, slowly over the course of a couple of sessions, build this contact that they now have online. Make it an official contact on their sheet. It's Jim 69420 or whatever the guy's handle is. The robot's handle is. Have them give them something to do. Make it so that they have contact with them fairly regularly, and it starts out perfectly mundane, perfectly normal. Hey, you met this guy online. He seems like a good dude. You can talk to him. You can type out all your problems. He's not going to tell anybody. He tells you all of the illegal stuff that he does. And then slowly but surely, make the responses make less and less sense. So, he starts out like, hey, Jim, 69420. I had a real tough day today. I, broke into the office, stole the pay data, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And Jim's like, oh, man, that's tough. I mean, I'm glad that you're out there fighting back, for the little man. But, man, I get it. That's tough. Maybe give him a bonus from that. Say, oh, hey, yeah, that'll clear, one of your inhumanity negatives. for a little while. It'll suppress it because now you have someone you can talk to, you can vent. And then after a while, Jim 69420 says, yeah, man, that sucks. I hate that you had to do that and all those security guards were there. Have you ever thought about replacing your legs with a fishtail? Just weird stuff. Just go with just out of the, just slowly. I mean, don't start with that because the fishtail thing's kind of weird. But start with something like, yeah, man, that's tough. Have you heard about this new product? You know, on the market.
Product
and
placement.
yeah, and eventually it turns out he's been talking to an ad bot the entire time, and the ad bot, of course, has been collecting all this data for its corporate masters, and well, now you've incriminated yourself to this corporation
Through an ad bot.
through an ad bot that you thought was your friend Jim 69420. Ugh, you fool.
All right, on the back.
So one of the tropes in fantasy TRPGs is that there's always a big bad.
Yeah.
But there's a possibility in corporate horror that some committee or group in the past implemented something that is now causing the player characters great harm, and they go to find who's the evil person who implemented this, and they find out nobody is. It's just drones, within the corporation. How would you explore finding out that a great evil being done is nobody's fault?
So for the recording, the question, the statement was, in fantasy titterpigs, pronounced titterpig, not TTRPG. In fantasy titterpigs, there's often a big bad. It's Sauron who's out there trying to take over the world, what have you. In corporate horror, in cyberpunk, it's often a committee that was formed long ago, decided to make this decision to do something, and now it's just being, the instructions are being carried out because nobody ever told it to stop. Congratulations, you invented the golem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what? How do you handle that in a cyberpunk setting if it turns out that there is no big bad that we can go expose the crimes of to humanity that we can take out? What do we do now?
Well, so that's something that you might either have to breadcrumb to. So, like, for instance, they do find out that this happens, and then your players are like, well, what do we do now? Well, now you have to give them either some type of search trail to follow. Well, now you have to actually follow on the web or something like that, where, like, continue to let them do something, because that whole, it's still going to happen and it's insurmountable is still part of that horror, right? Because it's still technically a big bad. It's just right now it's not corporeal, or this, like, they don't actually have something. They just have, I would say, like, that is the beginning of a dungeon crawl, essentially, where they find out that, like, this has been happening. There's nobody for us to punish, so what do we do about it? Well, you either have to dismantle it, right? Or you have to try to stop it from doing harm in other ways, whether it's reprogramming it, or whether it's, trying to destroy the hub that it's in, or something like that. And so that's kind of where that's actually a starting point and not the end point. So that's how I would handle it. All right, last question, and then what I'm going to have everybody do is, if you guys have any more questions, I'm going to hang out at least for a little bit. I don't know if you have any place to go.
I'm here
but
for y'all.
I'll hang out there, but we want to be respectful for the next panel. So last question.
Yeah, thank you so much for this. It's been a lot of fun. The need for consent was really clear.
Yeah.
One of the things I think is a lot of us play these games to escape. One of the challenges we have with cyberpunk and cyberpunk horror is it feels sometimes too real.
Oh yeah.
Because these narratives write themselves.
Real life is writing itself right now.
So has that been a challenge to not go, did you just take this out of the news clippings from today? Or like how do you manage that when sometimes like, man, this just happened last week?
A lot of stuff I've written has actually started happening. So like, I feel like the Onion writers sometimes. And the Onion is actually a local newspaper for me. So it started in Madison, Wisconsin, which is where I'm from. But yeah, like, it's just one of those things where we're like, well, this is what it is right now. Like, because right now, real life has actually caught up with where we are at for horror and for a lot of the other stuff. And so now, as creatives and humanity and everything like that, we now have to try to figure out what else is horror. I think a good example, and this is not cyberpunk, Sinners is like fantastic horror. It's one of the best vampire movies I've seen in the last 10 years. If you have not seen it, you need to see it. But I feel like stuff like that is going to push horror to the next level, where it is continuing to do that social commentary that horror originally started out as, but it's doing it in a way where it is accessible for a lot of people when it comes to that conversation. So I feel like stuff like that is going to push it. Other things that are like kind of pushing the genre is going to be things that actually throw back into old style horror. One of my favorite is Late Night with the Devil, if you've seen that one. It's a throwback. It's like a 70s style TV show, but it has like a whole bunch of really cool things in it. And I feel like throwing back, but throwing in new concepts into that old style is also going to kind of push it forward. Right now, there's not really much we can do, right? So we just kind of sit there and be like, well, my predictions are true. So.
Right.
Yeah.